Hello, my name is Audrey Welber, and I'm delighted to be talking to you today about marketing librarian expertise to students. I've been at Princeton for around 30 years and have tried lots of different ideas in various programs that I oversee, and I thought I'd like to share those with you today. So, why do we even need to market librarian expertise? Well, we all know that we're experts in helping people find, evaluate, and use information effectively, but do students know that? I'm finding that increasingly today, students don't know what we can do for them, how we can help them. They also feel like they can do most of it themselves using Google and ChatGPT. And at Princeton, they actually maybe want to talk to a librarian, but feel like they might be bothering us or revealing their ignorance, which Princeton students are definitely hesitant to do. So, in addition to marketing our expertise, we also have to market our approachability. So, I'm going to discuss some different ideas I've tried to implement at Princeton with both successes and pitfalls. And at the end, I'm really looking forward to talking with you and answering your questions. So, my general cycle of idea gathering starts with interactions with students. So, either in the classroom or one-on-one, I see what grabs them, when that light bulb goes off, and what seems to be captivating them in real time in a classroom situation. And then I try to generalize to some outreach techniques and marketing strategies. Of course, I investigate what my peer institutions have done, get ideas from them. I love it when campus stakeholders reach out to me and ask me to implement some sort of outreach or workshop, something like that. And then, of course, when I have an idea, I need to sell it to the library administration. And I usually pitch it in terms of a pilot. And as long as they give me the go ahead, I usually end up revising the pilot. And when the program is clearly successful, I'm usually permitted to just have it be an ongoing program. So, how does this look in the programs that I coordinate at Princeton? So I would say the most successful outreach program I've ever been a part of is our personal librarian program. I got the idea by traveling to Yale with a colleague of mine in 2017. I had never heard of a personal librarian program, but I immediately knew that it would be successful. And at the time, I felt like there was a big gap in the linkage to the library for the sophomore class. So I felt that this would be a particularly great support system for the second year or sophomore students. But it turned out to be great for everybody. But it should be emphasized that this was not a new service we were trying out. This was the same old librarian availability that we've always had, but just rebranded. So it's a direct outreach to every single undergraduate twice or maybe 3 times a semester. The personal librarians, I instruct them to send out slightly different emails to the first and second year students. Oopsie. And the juniors and seniors, because the juniors and seniors really do need to reach out to their subject specialist librarians. So I advise the personal librarians to send out slightly different emails. So we emphasize both approachability by getting personal in the emails, talking about our pets, sending pictures of our pets. You'll see in a little while, I work with a lot of athletes, so I talk about my son. I have an 11-year-old son. I talk about his sports life, and that establishes a nice connection. So when I give the training to personal librarians, I emphasize the necessity of referrals, not only to specialists, but if a personal librarian doesn't know how to handle a particular question, I emphasize that they should reach out to a colleague for help. The initial marketing blast usually ends up being a combination of cute images and specifics about how we can help them. So that initial email that we send out in the beginning of the academic year usually covers exactly what a librarian can do: help them find sources, refer them to a specialist, navigate the physical library system at Princeton, etc. So, promo, we had a brilliant communications person who came up with this very cute uh, picture of a student desperately in need of help, swimming in books. But I think the key to this promo was expert research help. So students are captivated by, oh, expert research help. That's what I need. We didn't use the word librarian in that header, just get expert research help. And that ended up attracting a lot of students to the personal librarian program. They would look us up. This is in the very beginning. Now that it's gained traction, everyone knows about the personal librarian program, so we don't really need to use a lot of visual marketing, but initially it was really great. And then she also developed little cards and stickers with the cute dog. You can't go wrong with a dog with glasses on, saying, I always consult my personal librarian, and a little picture of the computer screen with all of the pictures of the personal librarians. So this is all fairly standard as far as personal librarian programs at that time that we started it. But what was really unique as far as the way the program morphed at Princeton is that though we began with randomly pairing students with a personal librarian, when one of the deans who helps student athletes learned of the program, he reached out to me and asked if the football team could have a personal librarian. Now, instead of telling him, well, all undergraduates at Princeton already have a personal librarian, instead of telling him that, I said, good idea, we'll do it. Because I felt like this could really meet a need in a much more targeted way than just the random pairing. So I agreed to it immediately. I said, well, why don't we start with the football team? Because that was his immediate request. And pretty quickly, the other team started not only asking for, but demanding their own personal librarians. It was pretty awesome. So these identity cohorts, as I like to call them, allow for in-person connections. I can show up to football practices or academic panels for athletes. Initially, I took on this new kind of pilot within the personal librarian program, and I agreed to be the football personal librarian because I love the idea, but also because my 11-year-old son is an avid football player, and I thought it would be really cool to interact with Princeton University football players. So we started with football. The football coach even asked me to be a football fellow as part of the Princeton Athletic Fellows program. But then we started, as I said, the other team started demanding a personal librarian. So now we have football, men's and women's basketball, wrestling, swimming, track and cross country, hockey, ice hockey, and soccer and tennis. So yeah, the coaches are hearing about it and feeling like this is a really good idea, mainly because athletes are so pressured by their involvement in the sport that they need extra help and support. And so that's where we can really come in handy. So I encourage the personal librarians to send out really personal emails with graphics. I create little basketball and football graphics. For instance, I talk about my son's involvement. My son actually plays basketball, football, does wrestling, swimming, and plays lacrosse. So we don't have a lacrosse personal librarian yet, but that'll be next, I think. And so I talk about that with the students, and it gives them a sense that, wow, this person is really interested in helping me. Why don't I reach out and utilize this offer to help me with my research? So all the personal librarians, even if they're paired randomly with the students, figure out some way of making their emails personal. So about, I think, 3 years ago, I got an idea from Duke University um, to hold something called a long night against procrastination for the whole undergraduate student body at Princeton. And the platform we use for the personal librarian also allows me to send an email to the entire undergraduate student body. So I advertised this to the whole student body. I also had the personal librarians email their student rosters about this event. And if you could say this about an outreach event, it was almost too successful, because we had over 300 students in a very small area, and we ran out of food 3 times. But I mean, they had fun and it was awesome. But after that, I decided that we should probably make it more targeted. So we decided to focus on the writing program, the first year writing program, and have it be a research and writing clinic for their end of semester research essay, and focus on the expertise angle rather than just the general support. And oh, this is a little poster that our communications person made for the Long Night Against Procrastination. I mean, it was hugely successful. I highly recommend it, but for our purposes, it was a little too general and food oriented, so we felt like we needed to focus it more on the expertise. So that brings me to talking about my collaboration with the writing program. So about 10 to 15 years ago, I taught 3 semesters worth of a writing seminar called Jazz, Improvisation, and Culture, which gave me a really deep understanding of the writing pedagogy used by the writing program that I could then parlay into managing the collaboration between the library research side and the writing seminar side. So I pair each seminar with a librarian, and I train the librarians in the pedagogy of the writing program. And we have community of practice meetings to discuss how best to teach. So, but this starts with each of us meeting with a faculty member, usually in late summer. Now, our faculty in the writing program have 5-year appointments, so there's a lot of turnover, and we have to introduce the new faculty to all the resources at Princeton and exactly what we can do for both their seminars, but also what we can do to help them with their own research. So we're marketing our expertise to the faculty, who can then let their students know what we can do for them. So we help them with their own research when we meet prior to the beginning of the semester. We collaborate on a lesson plan for the seminars. And in this way, I can demonstrate my expertise to them. So I feel like that's a really great way of gaining inroads into the writing seminars and the life of the students, the research life of the students. Um, I also created a suite of short videos that I encourage the faculty to watch and then have their students use, so that when I show up in the classroom, I don't have to go over how to find an article or how to find a book or how to read a call number on the shelf or how to use Zotero. They can introduce their students to those things via these videos, so that when I come in, I can really customize my teaching. So instead of those campus-wide all undergraduate events, as I said, I decided to start holding end of semester research and writing clinics where there are librarians available to help the students with their research, but there are also writing fellows who are student tutors who can help students with writing at the same time. So these are really popular. We have them sign up using LibCal. We have, let's say, for instance, we hold these on a Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. till 9 p.m. and with half-an-hour slots, and the students can sign up for a half-hour slot, and they can get both writing and research help concurrently. So these are really, really successful. We also have a movie theater style popcorn maker, which is a huge hit. And in this era of budget cuts, it actually ends up being a very inexpensive way to create a fun atmosphere. The smell of popcorn wafts throughout the library, and students end up loving it. So one of my general philosophies about teaching is that it needs to be fun and exciting. So, library instruction, we all use that term, but how about a term like source euphoria? I'm stealing that from someone named Arden Shore, who teaches in the writing program. He pitches it as source euphoria. So I love that, because that's what it is. You find a source that's going to be perfect for your research, and there's a sense of euphoria associated with it. So in the classroom setting, I'll introduce myself as an information detective and tell them, the students, that they are also information detectives. I use an exercise to get students to think about keywords called the dream source exercise. I say, now listen, I need each of you to get out a piece of paper or use your computer to come up with a title of a source that you are imagining and that you would love to find. So they come up with these amazing titles of sources that they would love to find, and then we spend the class using those keywords to actually search for these sources. So that's a nice, fun way of introducing them to the notion of keywords. As I told you in an earlier slide, I've created instructional videos. I had a student narrate them. You'll see when you go back and look at the slides, you can click on that link that says short videos, and you can watch some of them. They're peppy, a student's narrating them. They have music and graphics in the backgrounds. And faculty will assign these videos as pre-assignments, and the students will come to class, the class that I'm teaching, with maybe sample searches along the lines of the searches that are shown in the videos. I will give them prizes if they can answer certain questions, like, what's the truncation symbol that I used in the video? And to the people that guess it correctly, I give them a little sticker or a piece of candy or something. Now, in the early days of my career at Princeton, when I saw a lot of very dull library videos, I decided, okay, there needs to be an exciting, fun, funny video that shows students that librarians have a sense of humor. So I came up with, along with an undergraduate actually, who's now gone on to become a filmmaker, something called Research Reloaded. And in this link, it'll lead you to the YouTube, and you can watch it. It was a little controversial among my colleagues, I'm going to confess, but it was very, very popular with students. um, okay, so how do we impart this expertise to the other librarians, to our library colleagues who may be part of some of these programs? Um, as I said before, I run these community of practice workshops where we share successful lesson plans, active learning nuggets. I've even attempted to have librarians read several pages of a B range piece of student writing in terms of source use and writing program pedagogy. So that's a way that I try to get librarians to see the writing side of things. Uh, Again, these catchy videos, I encourage my colleagues to use those. And then Canvas modules. So I've created several Canvas modules for inclusion in course sites. Some of my colleagues actually created one on media literacy and disinformation and AI. So these are intended to not only be a means for librarians to learn about how to teach media literacy, let's say, but faculty can also incorporate these into their own course sites. And then I've created a teaching toolkit. Again, it's just a bunch of links to lesson plans and the writing pedagogy and the videos, but it's branded as a teaching toolkit. I created it initially in LibGuides, and I'm actually porting most of that content over to Canvas, but that's also a very good way to share expertise with my colleagues. So let's talk about the reference management workshops. This is pretty straightforward. I teach Zotero campus-wide. Any person on campus can take these workshops, but I call them 30 minutes to better bibliographies, Zotero and more. And then another one that I do over the winter break period, which at Princeton is called winter session. So anybody can take these winter session courses, but I call that one academic power tools. So again, it's just the same old, reference management software, but branded in a way that might capture people's attention. One pitfall that I did encounter was that I over promised a little bit in my zeal to brand cleverly, and the graduate students were disappointed because all I ended up covering in the academic power tool session was Zotero, and they were hoping for a little bit more than that. So I learned my lesson. If I'm going to have a session, I can't overpromise. One thing I always do is while I'm giving a Zotero session, I show them library search techniques. And when I'm holding a research consultation, I often show them Zotero, students Zotero, or have them watch my Zotero video. So that's just a way that I kind of make sure that the audience knows about these other aspects of library research. So the journalism program, I'm the liaison to the Princeton's journalism program, and they are all practitioners in the field. They're not used to academic libraries, so I meet with the journalism faculty at the beginning of each semester for only 15 or 20 minutes, but I try to really show them cool things that I can do. I show them Nosy Nexus, which is Nexus Lexis Public Records. I am very animated and peppy so that they always are inclined to sell me to their students. So I have lots of students reaching out to me, and I show them some bias detection tools that they might not be familiar with. So that's just a way that I get my faculty that I liaise with to recommend me vigorously to their students. So I consider every single interaction an opportunity to demonstrate my expertise and my approachability. So every single one-on-one consultation, every single class, I try to not only talk about the library, but I talk about my 11-year-old son, who's a great athlete. I bring up some pop culture references that I learned about through him, like the lingo they're using these days, which is kind of crazy. And, especially like with the athletes, I'll actually show them videos of my son's sports prowess, and the athletes get really into that, and it establishes a really nice connection. So I hope this gives you some usable ideas for your own professional life and institution, and I would welcome contact. So if you want to reach out to me, please feel free, and I'm looking forward to answering any questions you might have and meeting all of you. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye bye.